It's the year 2000. You turn on the TV and there he is again. Tiger Woods, fist pumping, crowds roaring, and another trophy in his hands. But this isn't just another win. This is the year that golf changed forever. A young prodigy turned phenomenon, Woods didn't just win in 2000, he changed how golf was perceived by the entire world. So what tournaments did he win? How much did he earn? And how did one man single-handedly propel the sport of golf to an entirely new level? In 1996, he turned pro, and the golf world would never be the same. Nike saw the potential immediately in this young prodigy and offered him a whopping $40 million deal almost immediately. More money than most of us will ever see in our lifetimes, and an unprecedented amount for someone of his age. But there was one question still on everyone's lips. Was he able to live up to this massive expectation? Well, within his first 8 starts as a pro, he had already notched 2 wins. Safe to say Nike was getting their money's worth, and everyone got the answer to that question. By 1997, he'd won the Masters, and was already the rank number 1 in the world, within a single year of turning pro. And the following years held more of the same. More wins, more money, and more seeing his handsome face on billboards and TV screens across the globe. And now we're here, where this story is set. January 1st, 2000, a year that you might either remember fondly or never really got all the details on. So let's relive it together. As the new millennium dawned, Tiger Woods wasn't just a golfer anymore. He was a force of nature, reshaping the sport with every swing. Broadcasters, sponsors, ticket sales, wherever he went, the crowds came, and the money came with it, in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Imagine stepping out onto the first tee of a tournament against the best players in the world, knowing that you're the favorite to win. But not just once, every single time, throughout an entire season. This was Tiger's reality in the year 2000. Right out of the gate, Woods showed that he was ready to dominate. At the Mercedes Championships, he faced off against Ernie Els in a playoff. Now Els was no slouch. He was one of the best players in the world. But when the pressure was on, it was Tiger who emerged victorious with a 16 under par score. It was a statement win that set the tone for what was to come, and $522,000 in his pocket. In the 2000 season, this was pocket change for Tiger. And what was even crazier is this was 25 years ago, when prizes for tournaments were a lot lower. We'll reveal later in the video how much he would have made in his 2000 season if it was with present-day prize earnings. At the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, he pulled off something that seemed impossible. He found himself 7 shots back with just 7 holes to play. Most golfers would have packed it in. We've all had rounds where our opponent is a mile off, and we're just trudging along, waiting for the last few holes to end. But not Tiger. He mounted a comeback for the ages, eventually winning by 2 strokes. It was the kind of performance that left fans and fellow pros shaking their heads in disbelief, even though they already knew how great he was. That was another $720,000 added to the piggy bank. And the hits kept coming. At the Bay Hill Invitational, Woods cruised to a 4-shot victory, finishing at 18 under par. At this point, it wasn't just that he was winning. It was how he was winning. He was making world-class golfers look like the weekend casuals like you and I. But of course, even Superman has his kryptonite. At the Players' Championship, Tiger showed that he was human. Maybe a chink in the armor, a slight hope that other players might be able to compete. He finished second, which for any other golfer would be cause for a celebration. For Tiger, this was a disappointment. Literally. Anything that wasn't a win at this point came as a shock, but he still netted himself another $264,000 to ease the blow. As spring turned to summer, a question started to circulate in the golf world. Was Tiger peaking too early? Could he possibly maintain this incredible form? It seemed unlikely. After all, golf is a game of ebbs and flows. Surely Tiger would cool off eventually. He had a few outings in a row where he didn't win, placing second twice, winning once, and a few top 5 finishes. Outstanding if you weren't Tiger. We also know now that he was plagued with terrible injuries throughout his later career. Perhaps it was inevitable that he'd have to slow down, even if he didn't want to. Spoiler alert, he didn't. At the Memorial Tournament, Woods knocked that thought out of any doubter's head. A 5-stroke victory, tying the tournament record at 19 under par. It was a performance so dominant that it prompted Jack Nicklaus, arguably the greatest golfer of all time, to make a stunning admission. He's a better player than I was. By the time the dust settled on the first 10 tournaments of 2000, Tiger had racked up 5 victories in 10 starts. To put that in perspective, many great golfers go their entire careers without winning 5 times, some without even winning once. But Tiger did it in less than half a season, only 4 years after turning pro. In those first 36 rounds of golf, Woods was over par exactly once, and he shot 65 or better 10 times. These weren't just good numbers, these were video game numbers. The kind of stats that you'd see if you turned the difficulty setting all the way down to easy, and you cheated by resetting every time you hit a bad shot. The media coverage at the time was a mix of awe and disbelief. Commentators were running out of superlatives to describe what they were seeing. Words like unprecedented and unbelievable were thrown around so often that they started to lose their meaning. But how else could you describe it? As the summer of 2000 rolled around, Tiger Woods was about to take his game to a whole new level, which sounded impossible because he'd just won 5 events in 10 starts. But we're not lying. The US Open at Pebble Beach. He came out swinging with a first round score of 65, putting him 6 shots clear of the field right off the bat. It was like he was playing a different course than everyone else. Ernie Els, one of Tiger's biggest rivals at the time, summed it up perfectly. When he's on, we don't have much of a chance. He finished the tournament at 12 under par with a final score of 272, winning by a mind-blowing 15 shots. To put that in perspective, he was the only player to finish under par for the entire tournament. In fact, he was the first player to finish a US Open under par by double digits since the 90th century, and also another $800,000. Next up was the Open Championship at St Andrews, the home of golf. Was it possible that he could now top his US Open performance? And in true Tiger fashion, he pulled off a feat that left both spectators and competitors in awe. He managed to avoid all 112 bunkers on the course for the entire weekend. For those who don't know, St Andrews is famous for its treacherous bunkers. Avoiding them all isn't just impressive, it's almost unheard of. Tiger finished the tournament at 19 under par, winning by 8 strokes. It was another dominant performance that left the golfing world scratching their heads. But not only that, it also made him the youngest golfer ever to complete the career Grand Slam. At just 24 years old, he joined an elite group of only 5 players to achieve this feat, winning every single major tournament that golf had to offer. It's safe to say that Tiger wasn't just playing golf, he was redefining what was possible in the sport. But the summer wasn't over yet. The PGA Championship at Valhalla was still to come, and this time, Tiger faced his toughest challenge yet. Enter Bob May, a journeyman pro who wasn't about to let Tiger have it all his own way. May pushed Tiger to his limits, forcing a playoff after both players finished the 72 holes ahead the rest of the field. It was a battle for the ages, with Tiger, as you can expect, eventually coming out on top. The victory was marked by Tiger's now famous putt and point celebration, a rare display of emotion from the usually entirely straight-faced and stoic player that he was. The celebration seemingly marked a turning point. It was like he was offended that someone pushed him to try so hard. He was now about to embark on a streak that would make even the most seasoned analytical minds do a double take. Let's assume that you think you know how good Tiger was in 2000. We've already spoken about a ton of wins, millions of dollars in winnings, and he was clearly the best player in the world. Now, let me show you why you're probably still underestimating him. Imagine if I told you that Tiger's season was so dominant that it made Ben Hogan's 1953 look like a warm-up act, bearing in mind that Ben won 5 out of 6 tournaments that he entered that year. Woods finished with 17 top 5 finishes in 20 starts. We're talking about a level of consistency that was unprecedented in the sport. And when it came to winning, Tiger wasn't just good, he was otherworldly. 9 wins in 20 starts. That's a 45% win rate, the the highest since Ben Hogan in 1953. In just 1 year, Woods earned a jaw-dropping $10.7 million in prize winnings alone. That's not just breaking the bank, that's redefining what it meant to cash in on the golf course. Now, as promised, I will now tell you how much that would be worth in 2025. For context, Scottie Scheffler's incredible season in 2024 totaled $50 million. If Tiger had won all of the tournaments that he won in 2000 this year, he would have won $92 million from tournaments alone. Not that surprising when you consider that he won a record-breaking 6 PGA tournaments in a row. And if all of that wasn't enough, Woods decided to end the year with a bang. His streak reached 10 straight top 3 finishes to close out the year. He dominated in every statistical category that the sport had to offer. But here's the thing, Tiger's impact went far beyond the scorecards and the prize money. His performances significantly increased TV ratings and tournament attendance. Suddenly, golf wasn't just a sport, it was a must-see on TV. Crowds were bigger, viewership went through the roof, and everyone wanted a piece of the Tiger Woods experience. Whenever he wasn't playing, which was common in the later years in his career, TV ratings would drop significantly. As Tiger Woods' dominance reshaped the golfing world, a curious phenomenon emerged called tiger-proofing. Imagine golf courses scrambling to adapt to one man's talent. That is exactly what happened. Legendary venues like Augusta National began adding yardage and tweaking layouts to counter Woods' incredible driving ability. And it's not nothing when courses start altering their very foundations to level the playing field. It's like making football goals smaller because a single player is scoring too much. The final round of the 2000 US Open saw a staggering 38% increase in viewership compared to the previous year. People weren't just watching golf, they were watching Tiger. Nike, always quick to capitalize on a cultural phenomenon, launched their I Am Tiger Woods campaign. Suddenly, golf wasn't just a game for retirees and businessmen. It was cool, and young people were picking up clubs in droves. Youth participation in golf rose by 13% from 1997 to 2000. Tiger wasn't just winning tournaments, he was inspiring a whole new generation of golfers. But as with any revolution, there were skeptics. Critics began to question whether Woods' dominance was actually bad for the competitive balance in golf. After all, it's hard to keep things interesting when one player is so far ahead of the pack. Some argued that his success made it increasingly difficult for other players to compete effectively. And speaking of other players, they either had to adapt or get left behind. The gym became just as important as the driving range. Pros who once scoffed at weightlifting found themselves pumping iron to keep up with Tiger's physicality. It was a new era in golf, and Tiger was setting the pace. Even the virtual world of golf felt Tiger's impact. Golf video games, in particular the Tiger Woods PGA Tour series, saw a significant surge in popularity. People weren't just watching him on TV, they were playing as him in their living rooms. The ripple effects of Tiger's dominance touched every aspect of the golf industry. Equipment sales went through the roof. Nike's golf sales alone reached an estimated $600 million, largely thanks to Tiger's endorsement. Tournament organizers saw attendance numbers climb. Golf courses around the world began updating their facilities to attract Tiger-inspired newcomers. Industry analysts even noted a measurable Tiger effect on his competitors' performances. A study indicated that other players scored nearly one stroke worse when playing against Tiger, due to how intimidated they were by him just existing on the same course. And remember that Nike contract that we mentioned earlier? Well, it got a whole lot bigger. In 2000, Woods inked a new deal with the swoosh brand worth a total of $105 million over 5 years. This wasn't just big for golf, it was the largest endorsement deal that any athlete had seen ever. Nike clearly knew that they had the golden goose on their hands, and they weren't about to let him fly away. But Nike wasn't the only company that wanted a piece of the Tiger pie. American Express, Buick, and Titleist were all scrambling to get Woods to represent their brands. With all these endorsements piling up, his total earnings for 2000 reached an estimated $65 million. To put that in perspective, it was more than the GDP of some small countries. Woods wasn't just the highest paid golfer, he was the highest paid athlete across all sports. And that was before we consider his winnings. Now you might be thinking, surely this is just good for Tiger. Well, the entire golf industry was experiencing what analysts called the Tiger effect. Tournament purses ballooned by $30 million in just 1 year. That's a lot of extra cash for his fellow competitors to play for, all thanks to the drawing power of one man. 20 starts, 9 wins, 4 second places, 17 top 5s, and a scoring average of 67.79. hundreds of millions of dollars generated for both himself and his title sponsors, and an astronomical amount of growth to a sport that might previously been seen as niche and uncool. If you were a fan in 2000, you witnessed history in the making. The question now is, will we ever see anything like this ever again? It's hard to imagine, but then again, who could have predicted Tiger's incredible run before it happened?